All right, since we overcome by the words of our testimony, this is my testimony. Okay. All right, my mother had me at 15 years old. Her mother died at 16, so there she was raising me and my uncle. We never talked about money in our household, because quite frankly, there was no money in our household when I was a kid. In school, I was labeled psychologically, emotionally disturbed.
Meaning what?
I was irate. I threw temper tantrums, throw chairs. I'd been... There's a lot of whoopings went on in my household, quite frankly. A lot of anger that was inside of me as a child. So that's where a lot of labeling of individuals, teachers, and authorities came from. It's definitely when I was a child, because that's how I knew how to respond in anything that I did. So that's where it came from.
Two-parent household?
Oh, absolutely not. As a child, it was in and out. So I think my earliest memories of even seeing my father was probably, 3 or 4. And I just remember the arguments, the fights, the throwing stuff inside of the rooms, and me sitting in my hot room, like terrified. Like, this is what you're going through at 3 and 4 years old. But those were like my earliest memories.
It's the only memories you had of him?
As a child, I grew up rough. So I remember a lot of whoopings. I remember, like, literally just for everything, like just being beat for anything that I did, what I said, the yelling, the screaming, the fussing, the arguing. If I spilled something, that became an issue, a problem. So it was just a lot going on as a child. You sit there, look at a mother. I think about it now. My mother was 19. I was like 4. You know what I mean? She's trying to work 2 or 3 jobs. She's trying to provide for me and my uncle. My uncle's still in high school. So it was a lot going on in that time frame. Yeah, that's elementary.
You said 3 to 4, so
that's 3, 4, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. I think my mother had to come pick me up with the police. I was staying with my father. He wasn't letting her speak with me or know what was really going on. So she had to show up and pick me up with the police to go stay with her. That was 7, 8. We moved around. I think in my entire life, I went to 10 different schools from kindergarten to 12th grade.
Same city?
A little bit everywhere. So I've lived Florida, Virginia. I've lived in Puerto Rico. Like it was. We moved a lot.
All right. So middle school, you were saying that you got in some trouble in middle school.
Yeah. So middle school, I was kicked out in 7th grade. I went to an alternative school. I went to detention centers. That was my first time going to the detention center at 12 years old. I think it's around the same time getting kicked out of school, back at 14 years old. A lot of fighting, a lot of marijuana usage, a lot of alcohol. I mean, my entire life was based off of people around me that was the thing. It was drinkers. Everybody drank. Everybody partied. So you kind of begin to pick up what's around you when you're growing up. Everybody doesn't really understand the amount that environment plays in a child's development. But if you've only seen certain things, that becomes the person that you are.
Okay. So we saying 12, 14, and you saying partying. That don't sound normal for most people in middle school. So and for people to be drinking and smoking, I mean, you run across some of that. So what kind of environment or atmosphere you was in to even be, was this at home? Was this like, home people in the street?
It's what you see, it's basically what you see. It's what you see in the household. It's what you see with the family members that you've grown up around. You see what they do. Sex was really heavy at that point in time. So middle school, I was out of control. Like middle school, high school.
So you were grown in middle school.
Oh, absolutely. Like it was ridiculous, right? It was what I did daily. Like it was a part of my life. So you move into high school and you have the same mentality, the same understanding of life as what it is. So you're trying to basically fit your environment. So in high school, I ended up going to detention center, I think my 9th grade year. And it was basically one of the situations like, you've been in trouble so much, it's either stay in jail or leave the state. So that's when I actually moved down to Jacksonville. I think I was 15 years old getting out of detention home.
Somebody told you that was your ultimatum?
I was like the ultimatum. Right, like
from who?
From the courts.
From the courts.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, at this point we can keep you until you're 18 or you can basically, leave, because right now the environment that you're in isn't conducive of success. So I ended up coming down to Jacksonville, Florida. And the funny thing about life is it doesn't change if you don't change. And that was one of the things my mother told me as I was leaving Virginia. She says, you can go anywhere in this world. If you don't change, ain't nothing going to change. And it was funny. I came down here, and within, I think, maybe a month or so, I had already had my hands on like an ounce of cocaine to sell. I was I was pulled over to the stolen car. One of the friends, the same environment, same people. You step into any environment you step into, if you're the same person, you're going to attract those same people. And that was what I was attracting when I got to Jacksonville.
So that's at 14, and I think he just said 16. You
15
on your own.
So yeah, 16 years old, I moved out.
So at 15, you said, "Oh, that happened at 15."
That was 14, 15 time frame. 16 years old, I was on my own. So I moved out. I had an apartment off 103rd. So the apartment off 103rd, I got my old car. That was a crazy time. Like, you shouldn't be doing certain things.
Still in school?
Yeah, I'm still in school. I'm going to school every day.
So you're on your own and still going to school?
Yeah, I'm going to school. I'm high. At this point, I've been up all night with ecstasy, drinking all night. Women running in front door, back door. Like, this is 16 years old. So it's not as if I'm at this point a regular 16-year-old, right? Like, you're grown at this point. But you sit there at night, and I remember buying, I traded a fish tank for a fish tank. So I traded one of my neighbors, and it was some weed for a fish tank. And I put this fish tank inside of my room. And every night I would go inside of my room because my door, constantly people knocking on it. The only piece I had was this fish tank in my room. So I would turn the music on and look at my fish. And that was like my peace. But the idea of a 16-year-old thinking all day, I'm waiting on someone to kick this door in. I'm waiting on somebody to rob me. I'm waiting on something. It was just, you're in a prison almost, right? That you've created yourself. But this is the only environment that you truly understand, or I truly feel comfortable in. That's the crazy part, that something so toxic can actually be your place of peace at the same time. Yeah, like that was like my tranquility. It's crazy to say that, but it almost becomes a part of who you are as an individual. So I'm looking at an environment that, yes, it's completely toxic. Yes, I don't feel as though this is what I should be doing. I can almost see where this is going, right? Like, you can see this is only going to end in death or prison. Like, that's it. Like, I can see it, but at the same time, I'm comfortable in this environment.
All right. So high school, graduated?
Yeah, absolutely. Graduated. It's funny. I failed ninth grade twice. So, and it wasn't because I was stupid. It was just because I didn't care, to be quite honest. And I ended up graduating, I think, with a 3.75. When I finally got it, I got it. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, well, let me just knock all this work out. And it wasn't that it was hard. It was never hard to me. It's just I chose not to do it. And that final report, it showed my last couple of years, it was like 3.75 GPA.
Wow. So what was the plans after that?
Didn't have a plan, right? Like, I remember saying to myself at that point, I need to get out of Jacksonville or I'm dying. I'm gonna die. Like, I'm going to prison forever. Like, I know it. The individuals I hang around with, the things that I do, I'm going to jail forever. So I decided, I'm gonna try this military thing. That didn't work. That wasn't for me at all. You take it. Nah, that wasn't for me at all. That wasn't for the kid. I mean, it totaled 4 years, but it just wasn't for me. Like,
so you made boot camp and all that. Man.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it wasn't. That was the best part of it for me, because it was me going through a process that I knew I had to do. But after I got out, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was sergeant major at the Army at the E3. Like, I was cussing everybody out. It was time to fight the whole nine. Like, it was. I couldn't stand the military, to be honest with you. It was a horrible situation. But then I looked at it, still trying to do the exact same thing. Like, I remember at one point in my life, I used to put a quarter ounce of cocaine up my nose every 3 days so I could sell drugs. Right. I remember I ended up going to federal prison in Oklahoma. I didn't even know where Oklahoma was when they charged me. From 12 years old to 24 years old, I was in 7 different correctional facilities in 4 different states. It was what I knew. The fortunate part about it is my mother was one of those people. She would never let me speak slang in the house, right? So for me, I knew how to play both sides of the fence, so to speak. I knew how to articulate myself when I had to be in that place of business, but I also knew how to be in the streets. And I tell people all the time, like, dabbling is dangerous, right? If you can't really make a choice on your life or which direction you want to go, if you're dabbling in too many things, and that's in life in general. Like if you're dabbling in business, right, it's going to be hard for you to build one company. If you're dabbling in a relationship, it's going to be hard for you to truly gain a connection in life. And me, I figured out a way to dabble through life, so I can step into a boardroom or I can step into the trap, and I can do the exact same thing. And so it wasn't until I was about 24 years old that it became a 24 years old until I had an LCE, life-changing experience, right? And that life-changing experience is at the point where everybody begins to shift their life. And sometimes it's death, sometimes it's near-death experience from you. Sometimes it's an experience with the law, right? Something has to shake majority of people outside of the comfort zone that they're in. And when I hit that 24 years old, I was like, you know what? This is it. So everything changed at that point in life for me.
So what happened?
There was another situation with law, and I remember looking at my daughter in the courtroom, and my chains were shaking. And she was like 3 years old, 3 years old. And I remember looking back at her, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. And they're standing there, and the judge is trying to prompt my ex-wife and my daughter to leave. And I'm like, Judge, I don't want to see me like this. And it was interesting. At that point, looking back at her, I knew there's a problem. Like, this isn't you. Like, this isn't the life that you want to live forever. This is not what you want your children to see or your legacy to be. Like, that was my LCE. And so after that, I changed everything about me, right? No friends. Like I tell people all the time, like most of you are hanging around with people that are keeping you down, and you think it's love. You think it's what you were supposed to do. People get into this stage of being real. Like, no. Being real is being able to leave a legacy for your children. Being real is identifying that this no longer serves me and moving to your higher self. So I picked up every book that I can possibly get. Business, relationships, finance. And I realized my entire life I had been lied to, right? And I've been lied to the people closest to me. And they weren't trying to lie to me, but that was only information that they had. So that's the information that they give you. And many times they're talking about their fears, right? Many times they're talking about their disappointments, their frustrations, and that's what they're pressing on to you. It's crazy. I started doing mortgages during that time, right? So everything about my life changed. I'm going to church every week, right? I'm married at this point. It's about my family. I'm trying to be the best husband I know how to be, but I've never seen a successful relationship in my life. So that's that's a daunting task, right? So books, church. I started mortgages. I was doing mortgages. I stopped that. I started another business that I purchased and started doing pressure washing and mobile detailing inside up in Atlanta, and grew really, really, really quickly. So within, I think, a year and a half, we've done about $250,000, and we had all the government agencies. So we did every vehicle for Navy, Army, Marines, EPA, CDC, what else? GSA. So any flat work or any cars that were for the military, for the government in that space, we began to service all of them, right? And it's like, oh my God, I'm building something, right? I'm going to college at this point for marketing. Life is looking amazing. And we also have these LCEs that come back into place. So as I'm building that company's going well. I'm looking at selling this company because I want to start my marketing company. I'm working on a deal in Ohio to kind of procure for Disney World, the big Bam Bam turkey legs. I get a call on my birthday. It's my wife, and of course, you're picking up the phone on your birthday, and you're like, yeah, this is what's up. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, she's about to tell me happy birthday. It was actually a call saying she wants a divorce. And in that call, I can kind of hear her talking or comparing me to another man. And everything that you're doing, I don't really care about it. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So when I get back, there it goes. Your life's upside down again, because now I'm going through a divorce. So one of my customers that I was working with, he kind of seen what was going on. You know what I mean? He was like, so I took on a job for him as his director of marketing and sales. We used to sell food, Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, all across the country. And me and his business morals his business ideas didn't align. During that time frame, I created a diabetic cookie that we tested with one of the largest diabetic clinics in the country. It was lowered insulin levels by 60%, the intake levels by 60%, and A1C levels, I think, by like 1.7 in a 6-month time frame. And I got screwed out of that company. And then me and that business owners, of course, they had to let me go because I was voicing the things that I didn't care about. So I found myself at 28, maybe 29, homeless. I went from sleeping on my girlfriend's couch, my uncle's bedroom, my uncle's spare bedroom, to my girlfriend's couch, to a house with no stove, no hot water heater, no refrigerator. And I only got that because I wrote that into a business deal. So I was going to do business development for a company, and they had a house that was there. So the next 2 or 3 years, I'm grinding. I'm sitting in the house every day and I'm working 14, 16, 17 hours a day trying to figure this thing out. I used to walk the streets of DC with holes in the bottom of my shoes trying to rebuild my business, right? And I used to sit in that house and think about killing myself more than I thought about being alive. And at the same time, I'm studying, I'm reading, you're trying to remain hopeful. I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And then all of a sudden it began to pop 2 years later. First government contract was like $500,000 a year. Second contract came right behind that. Million. Next contract, 4 million. All in all, total contract values inside of like 2.5 years, I did 500 million, $500 million in contract values. It's crazy how life shifts, right? So at 32, I'm semi-retired. I'm sitting around and I'm playing with, became a beekeeper, began fishing, began building things. Like, it was just crazy. Like, I'm trying to figure out my life, but I realized one thing. I didn't know who I was because I went from a father to a baby daddy. I went from an entrepreneur to a worker. And now you have to redefine exactly who you are as an individual. And I don't think most people have really done that for themselves, defining themselves for themselves. They've been defined by the law. They've been defined by society. They've been defined by family members. So you're now trying to rebuild who you think you are as an individual, because guess what? No one's ever sat down and truly dug deep enough to understand, are these my values? Are these my belief systems? Where did these belief systems come from? I remember not even knowing what to do. Like I didn't know what I liked. I knew I loved when I was younger, chasing women, drinking, I loved that when I was younger, right? So then you go from that to, okay, I'm married and I'm absolutely doing nothing. So now it just became business, work, church, family. It's like, okay, I did all of that. Now that relationship is gone. Who am I? Right? Like, I didn't know what I liked to do at all. That's why I started.
You did it all.
Right. I don't know what's pleasurable to me, because all of them was based off of circumstance. All was based off of situations and different time frames in my life. And that's why I started that project of, I called it Reconstructing Me, when I took that time off. Let me try fishing. Do I know if I love fishing? Let me try that. Let me try beekeeping. Let me try building. Like, let me try gardening. Like, let me find things that don't have to do with anyone else, because there was an emptiness there. And it was still there, lingering from the depression of the divorce and going through all those years. And then I found myself moving into a new house. And one day I'm sitting, getting a new car, moving into a new house, and I'm sitting in a bed with a gun in my hand thinking about killing myself. And it's like, wow, like, first of all, you don't kill yourself. That's crazy, right? Like, that's when I knew there was an issue going on. Like, you don't kill yourself. That's crazy. So I just began doing all these things, trying to bring myself to a place of happiness. I realized it can't be defined by anyone else's standards. It can't be defined by anyone else. It can't be people, places, things. None of this happens, because at this point I have money in my account. I have a new place. I have a new car. Like, all of these things should be happy, that what most people feel would make them happier. But at that point in time, you have to define what's happy for you, right? Like, none of these things matter at this point. So at that point, I mean, everything is going right. It's going right. It's going right, right? Like, it's like, okay, I'm in a great place, but I'm still depressed. And when I started doing, I call it my Reconstructing Me period, of trying everything to find out what I like and what I don't like. And I could see every day it was happiness. So when I started beekeeping, I met this guy, Willis. I love him to life. So Willis, he was a 76-year-old white guy. And I met him at this beekeeping meeting. That only reason I went, I'm gonna be honest, 100%. I went to this church. I love the church. I was like, okay, what's going on Wednesday? They don't have anything. They had these small groups. And how ignorant we are, right? I looked through the small groups like, beekeeping, white black people don't do that. And instantaneously, I told myself, I have to go. Since you wanted to be that ignorant, that's ignorant, right? I have to go now. So I went to the beekeeping meeting. The guy, Willis, he seen the enthusiasm on my face. Like, I was like excited about this thing. He invited me out to his place, pristine, 2 acres, pristine. He has bees out there. So we go out there and we're beekeeping. And I used to go out there regularly, like 2 or 3 times a week, right? And I go out there and I help him with the yard. I help him cut down trees. We'll mess around in his garden. We'll tend to his bees. And one day I asked him, I said, hey, Willis, I see you. Like, you're the the epitome of happy. Like, he exudes happiness. Like, his time is spent working on his yard, helping people, like things like that. And he says, Adrian, you see these bees, coming out here and tending to these bees. He said, we have a girl we kind of adopted, right? So any honey I sell, I give it to her so she can go to medical school. He says, I help the ladies at the church. I tend to my yard. He says, he was an old railroad executive that retired. He said, Adrian, your business, money's going to come and go. He said, but if you truly want to be happy, you have to do something that you love every day. Right? That's the secret to my happiness. I do things that I love every day. And I kind of taken that philosophy and used it in my own life. Like, problems are going to happen. You're going to get punched. You're going to get kicked. Things are going to hurt, right? You're individuals that you love. They're going to betray you. That's life, right? But getting back up is the thing that majority of people haven't learned how to do. Like, keep punching through the pain, keep punching through the frustration. One of the strongest quotes you'll ever find in the Bible is, this too shall pass, right? This too shall pass. So everything that I've gone through in my life, the pain, the hurt, the alcoholism, the drugs, everything that I've done in my life, this too shall pass. And all those things were working to my benefit. If you truly believe, that's biblical. All these things are working for my benefit, so I can now help other people. So I can push you through that situation that you believe that you can't get out of, that depressive state. I mean, I go through those. I go through that. I have a family history of depression, but understanding and identifying it and being able to push through is what I've had to learn how to do within my life. Right? During that 2 years, I was able to really re-examine who I was as an individual, not based off of what someone else told me I should be, not based off of these roles that I play in my life, right? I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm an entrepreneur. When you begin to define those things, when they move away from you, guess what? You don't know who you are. So I have to be this person consistently throughout my life. So it was so interesting. I've always wanted to do real estate ever since I was 16 years old. And I had someone tell me at 16, don't do it, right? And it was the only legal business owner I knew. And he was like, no, don't do it. But what I later figured out, he's like, don't do it. It's too expensive. It's too risky. What I later figured out, he had a construction company. And he had tore the construction company up. So he was bitter about it. And I keep telling people, the worst advice you can ever take in your life is from people closest to you. Why? Because we respect them, but we don't know where their point of view is coming from, right? If it's coming from a place of fear, if it's coming from a place of frustration, of bitterness, right? You may be getting the residue of all of their heartache and pain. Right? They may be trying to control you. And if we look at it, the spirit of Jezebel is not a person, it's a spirit. And the whole goal is to manipulate, control, right? Intimidate, manipulate, and control. Once you start to identify that that's what the people around you, that's what they're doing. They're trying to control you, right? They're trying to impress their pain or frustration. They couldn't do it, so you can't do it, right? So that's what they're telling you. So you have to begin to learn who you are for yourself, read the books for yourself, get more information for yourself when you're trying to come out of any situation and you want to really move up and step forward in your life. So in that time frame, that's what I did. I redefined everything. And then I jumped into real estate. It was funny. I was doing some consulting for a friend of mine or associate of mine now, introduced me to a young lady she needed.
Around what age are you now?
This is 30. How old am I now? This is like 34, 35. So trying to figure out where I wanted to be, what space I wanted to be in again. Associate introduced me to this other young lady, Eva Mahaya, love of life, and for some marketing consulting for her real estate company. And then one day we're sitting in the office and I said, hey, I want to do some flipping. She said, hey, I want to flip some. So we jumped in the car, took off. Started driving for dollars and found the house. And 45 days later, we had flipped it and we were selling it. And so that's been my passion ever since. It's like building out my real estate company, being able to really educate buyers and sellers in the market and how they can actually own a property, how they can become financially solvent in that. And my whole game, all of these years, ever since I started, even while I was going through the pain of being homeless and everything, I used to do speaking. So I love that. I was speaking, right? And I've been able to share the stage with some greats, right? We've done events pretty much all over the country, and that's been my thing, coaching and speaking, and that's just a part of my passion. That's my heart, right?
So you say you were speaking while you was homeless too?
While I was in that place, in that house, no stove, no hot water heater, no refrigerator, I'm still speaking. And I don't think people understand the power of the tongue. Like, You down right now, but that does not mean that that's where you're forever place, right? It's a mentality to be down. Like, you can stay there if you so choose to, but even then I'm speaking life into individuals. I'm still telling my story. I'm still encouraging people to be the best they can. And the funny part about it is I'm going home into a place where I'm depressed, but my heart says speak. My heart says teach. My heart says encourage. That's who I am as a person in general, is to encourage other people to be the best possible person that they can be. And I don't believe in this whole motivational speech thing. Motivation is fake. Listen, if anybody's listening to this, motivation doesn't last. That's why you keep going back for more. It's like going to church on Wednesday. It's the only reason, because that emotion from Sunday is worn off. I believe in transformation. If I can take you from here to there, right? If I can change those belief systems, those words that you have, if I can switch that, like turn that off, change those belief systems, you can also change the outcomes of all of your actions. But most people are so stuck on the belief systems that they have, that they've been poured in, that's been poured into them by individuals that are hurting, by people who couldn't do it, right? Like, that's the crazy part about this whole thing called life, is our circle, the people that we hang around with, this whole motivational mantra of, hang around like-minded people, this like-minded people mantra. It's crazy, right? Like, think about it for a second. Like-minded. If you don't know what you're doing and you're hanging around like-minded people, then a whole bunch of people don't know what they're doing, right? Like, so we just all here still trying to figure out, if I'm crazy and I'm hanging around like-minded people, now we have a whole bunch of people that's crazy, but we don't think about the things that we hear, say, we just say them. And that's what's so interesting about this thing called motivation. We fall into this trap that it must be motivation. No, there needs to be a change, right? There has to be something that clicks in your brain. Your belief systems have to evolve into a place that actually serves you. These individuals that you hang around, they don't serve you. You've been hanging around 20 years. Y'all start still in the same place together. It doesn't serve you. So that idea has to be transformed. So I've always called myself a transformational speaker, because I want to dig down deep into what's really going on with you. I don't want to amp you up. I don't want you hooping, hollering, yelling, screaming with this emotional passion that's going to die out the next day when the first problem comes. I want there to be a shift in your life. That's everything. Like, my life is that, I tell people all the time, I see pain, right? Like, you go through enough pain, you can see pain on an individual. I don't care where you are. So you faking confidence, yeah, I can see that's fake, right? Because I can see that's fake, right? It's pain. And I think that's the one thing that connects all of us, is pain, and being able to heal or relieve some of that pressure from people that are going through. That's what's great for me, to see a person who never thought they would ever get into a home. That's amazing to me. Like, those are the stories that I like to look at, because in those times of darkness, the only thing that you have is those stories that should be uplifting you, versus the stories that your brain has continued ruminating that won't allow you to forgive yourself. Those failures that you've had over and over and over again. I love the story of David. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And when they went, he's like, no one would fight Goliath. No one would fight Goliath. He said, I'll do it. And he said, but you're just a child. He's been fighting grown men since he was a kid. He's like, that's fine. He said, but I used to have to go take the lamb out of the lions, the tigers, and the bears' mouth. He's like, I can do this, right? And I tell people all the time, hold on to those lions, tigers, and bears, because when you have a Goliath coming at you, what you need to hold on to is those times that God has moved doors and mountains and everything else in your life, so now you can operate in a space that says I'm royalty, right? Like, I can operate in a space where I say this too shall pass. And most people don't track their lions and tigers and bears. They don't put that on a piece of paper. I overcame this. I thought I would never overcome it. This right here was crazy. This should have killed me. I overcame this, right? Those are my lions and tigers and bears that I'm constantly writing down. So when I get in a place of depression or get in a place of frustration and I don't know what's going on in my life, I look back at my lions, tigers, and bears. I know this too shall pass, right? It's all working for my good, because I've had to overcome this before. And that's what I want people to be able to gravitate to, right? And that's in all areas of your life, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That's my mission in life. I have it on my board. My mission in life is to extract excellence out of people at a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and a financial level. That's what I want to do in every area of my life. And it's crazy that real estate has given me that ability to do it in multiple areas, because we're psychologists and everything, psychologists and everything else. But to be able to pour into people is what God has given me ultimately. right? My story, my testimony, looking at my mother having me at 15 and her mother dying at 16 and she raising me and my mother, me and my uncle, right? Looking at me failing ninth grade twice, looking at me moving out at 16 years old, me being called socially emotionally disturbed, right? Like seriously emotionally disturbed, looking at the times I spent in the 6x8 cells, trying to figure my life out, thinking about the amount of drugs I put in my system, my heart should have busted, the amount of alcohol I consumed over the course of my life, thinking about everything that people say is an excuse in their life. Well, this happened in my life. I'm every excuse that a person can have, and being able to tell my testimony and let people know you can too have this if you're willing to put in the work. That's why I hate the word manifestation. I hate it because everybody now has in their brain that it's this magical power that's going, all I have to do is keep saying it. No, you're screwed up, bro. Like you ain't doing no work and mentally you're not working on yourself. I hate the word manifestation. It's disgusting to me because people use it as if I don't have to do anything. And as long as I keep talking about it, it's going to happen. No. Life doesn't work like that, right? Even The Secret talked about work. The only part that people grab hold to is I can draw it into me if I just think it, speak it every day. No, The Secret said the biggest part of this is work, right? And that's the inner work that people don't want to do. It's the things that we want to hold on to our whole life instead of saying, you know what, I want a perfect relationship. I have to heal here. Right? I want a great business that's prospering and thriving. Well, are you reading? Are you studying? Are you putting in the work? Are you putting one post up and saying nobody's buying from me? Those are the things that I really grab hold to and try to instill in people because you can have what you want. I'm every excuse you could possibly have. If you had an excuse of what you couldn't do in your past history, if you had an excuse, I'm every excuse you can have. And I'm still fighting every day. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right? It came a point after those 2 or 3 year period. Yeah, I got screwed out of a business deal, lost a couple $100,000. Right? So now I got to build it all again. Right? Like it's building it again. But what are you focusing on? Right? Because if I keep focused on the failure, I can never get to my promise. And majority of people can't get past where they failed. They can't forgive themselves for what they've done. Right? But your lions, your tigers, your bears, those are the things that move you forward every day. I tell people I should be dead. I know that. That's not ifs, ands, and buts. That's not maybe. No, I should be dead. Right? The amount of situations I've been in my life, I should be dead. I should be in prison the rest of my life. Right? Why? The situations that I placed myself in, I should have been there. Right? My life wasn't conducive of success. My mother had me at 15. How much was she teaching me about adulthood if she had never been an adult? Right? When you're looking at a father, he wasn't really there. Right? That's an excuse that someone's going to have. Right? You've been in jail. I've been there too. Like that's another excuse that most people are going to have. Right? I'm depressed. I am too. I am too. I fight with this regularly. Right? Every time at the end of the year, I get in this place of depression. I have to fight through this. Right? And it's not because I want to be depressed. No, I have a family history of depression, so I have to fight through those. I don't have enough money. When you walk in the streets with holes in the bottom of my shoes, I wish I can give you the picture. I have a suitcase full of shoes with nothing but holes in them. I can show you where I walked, holes in the bottom of my shoes, trying to rebuild a business. Literally going home frustrated every night that it's not working for me. And I kept pushing. Sometimes you got to cry yourself to sleep. That pillow knows. I don't care what nobody say. You act like it's all together, but that pillow knows. When you lay your head on that pillow, it knows everything that you're going to. Crying myself to sleep at night, trying to push through this thing. Doubting myself all the way. Confidence had been murdered. Like the biggest thing about me, my confidence had always been my defining factor. Well, now your wife's left you. She's blaming it on you. You're in a relationship that you had to use big words for that. I was like, try to steal. I don't know. It was a crazy, tumultuous. There we go. It was a tumultuous relationship. I'm in a relationship. The girl talking about me like a dog behind my back. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love you, baby. And then go tell her best friend, I call it the force of my frustration. I ain't gonna get into that story, but it was crazy. It's like, God dang, the woman I'm with talking about me like a dog, right? I'm sitting in this house all alone, isolated. My brain is doing a million things. You're not good enough. It is your fault. And even though you know it's not, all the evidence appears to be true. You're never going to make it. I don't know why you don't just stop, go get a job. I don't know who you think you are. Like your brain, and you're battling that brain that's telling you that you're not enough. You can't do it. You should just kill yourself. It might be easier for you. Like you're battling these things every day. I was there, right? And I'm still telling people, press on. Pick up, press on, push on. I've been there. I'm every excuse. If you want one, we can sit down. I guarantee you, say I did this. I was like, yeah, I've been through that too. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. We can talk about that too, because I've been there before. But it's press on, right? This too shall pass. Dr. Adrian Gentry, and this is my book of testimony.